Bundle up was the order of the day for the first time in the 1977 football season as winter weather finally arrived at NFL stadia across the country. In Pittsburgh, where the Steelers faced the Browns, a light dusting of snow lay on the ground and temperatures hovered around the freezing point. But the only thing colder than the weather outside Three Rivers Stadium was the football team that plays inside. The Steelers have lost 2 straight and with a 4-4 record trailed the Browns by 1 game in the AFC Central Division. Something seems to be missing in the 77 edition of the Steelers. Pittsburgh has racked up enough numbers to rank second in the conference in offense, but turnovers have killed the consistency of Chuck Noll's offense. With 15 interceptions, Terry Bradshaw leads the AFC in misfires, and the team's 17 fumbles is the second highest in the league. Noll's defense has also been an enigma. The Steel Curtain leads the conference in defense, yet in just 8 games, the Steelers have given up 133 points. During the entire 1976 season, they gave up only 138. Just as surprising has been the performance of the Browns. Despite one of the league's more brutal schedules, Forrest Gregg's Browns find themselves in first place in the division. It is truly the league's most competitive. For on this Sunday, if the Steelers, Bengals, and Oilers had all won, all 4 teams would have been tied for first place. The Steelers immediately began to add to their total offense ranking as Rocky Bleier ripped 12 yards on Pittsburgh's first snap. Bradshaw's first pass of the game fell safely into conference-leading receiver Lynn Swann's hands, and Pittsburgh quickly moved into Cleveland territory. The Steelers would not score on the early drive as the Browns stiffened, but they had established early that they could run and pass almost as they pleased, and had embarked on a 331-yard total offense first half. The Browns started even faster than the Steelers. On their first snap, Greg Pruitt blazed 37 yards. Pruitt's run set the Browns up on the Steeler 43, and after further advancement was halted at the 26-yard line, Don Cockroft put the Browns in front 3-0. Cockroft's field goal was to be all Cleveland would get in the first half, as the Steel Curtain's second against both the run and the pass, and first overall in defense, covered Brian Sipes' receivers perfectly and repeatedly forced him to run for his life. During the entire first period, Sipe accumulated just 1 yard passing, as Steelers secondary coverage forced Sipe to throw to his backs, who were quickly swallowed up by Pittsburgh pursuit. Although Sipe was not sacked, Ernie Holmes, number 63, came close once, and the near sack would prove to be a crucial play. Sipe's snipe left the Cleveland quarterback with an injured left shoulder. Though he gamely tried to continue, later in the half he would be forced to sit down. An injured Sipe would finish the half 4 for 8 for 24 yards, and his runners would add just 51 yards to Pruitt's first play 37-yarder, as the Steel Curtain came down hard on the Cleveland offense. The Steelers, too, struggled on offense, but not for long. After their fruitless first drive, Bradshaw, on their next series, threw what should have been his 16th interception of the year, but Charlie Hall dropped the ball. The consequences were devastating. Given a new life, Bradshaw took off on what was to be an 8 for 12 for 229-yard passing performance in the first half. Bradshaw's next pass was good for 21 yards to Benny Cunningham. And the one immediately following found Swan for 40 and a touchdown. The Steelers had taken a 7-3 lead that they would never relinquish. A red-hot Terry Bradshaw and two hot-shot wide receivers, Lynn Swan, number 88, and John Stallworth, number 82, destroyed the Cleveland defense all afternoon. Stallworth's 38-yard catch and carry and a great catch by Swan for 24 yards had Pittsburgh on the Cleveland 2-yard line as the first quarter came to a close. Both Swan and Stallworth came to the Steelers in 1972. Swan from USC has been an all-pro, but Stallworth from Alabama A&M has also made a significant contribution to the team. On this drive, a team to set up Rocky Blyer's 2-yard touchdown run and a 14-3 Pittsburgh lead. Blyer's touchdown came 2 plays into the second quarter, but that was to be their last score for a while as the Browns played excellent defense during a 9-minute stretch of the second quarter. And when Cleveland took over, Sipe, despite increasing pain in his shoulder, connected on 2, albeit short passes that got the Browns going. Passes totaling 21 yards and Greg Pruitt's peekaboo 17-yard run brought Cleveland to the Pittsburgh 36. But from there, Sipe's next pass was tipped by Jack Ham and intercepted by Jimmy Allen. It was Sipe's only downfield pass since the Holmes hit, as he perhaps threw a bit early, wary of another shot to his sore left shoulder. Allen's fumble was recovered by teammate Lauren Taves. The Steelers had successfully fought back Cleveland's drive, but they could not get a drive of their own going. When Cleveland next gained possession, it became obvious that Sipe would not get Cleveland going again. The pain in his shoulder was getting worse, and this was to be his last pass of the game. Looking at the play again reveals that Sipe had indeed succumbed to an earlier hit. Forced to scramble, he was never really touched on the play, and his passing arm is okay. But he could not fight back the pain in his shoulder and was forced to leave the game. Dave Mays, Sipe's backup, who is also a dentist, was not able to do much better in the first half than Sipe had done, as Jack Ham intercepted one of his passes and returned it to the Steeler 45. If you're wondering why Reggie Rucker is indicating Cleveland ball, a repeat of the play reveals that the Steelers had indeed turned the ball back over to the Browns. Ham attempted to lateral to number 24, J.T. Thomas, who apparently wanted no part of the ball, and Cleveland recovered. The Browns were unable to use the break, and what Sipe and Mays had not been able to do, Bradshaw did. With 5 minutes left in the half, he started bombing away. This time, from 38 yards out, Bradshaw nailed Stallworth for a 21-3 lead. Another look reveals that Bradshaw, despite rolling left and then passing, the most difficult pass for a right-handed quarterback, perfectly placed the ball over Oliver Davis and into Stallworth's hands. Bradshaw had now passed for 178 yards in the half, but he was far from finished. With a little over 2 minutes left in the half, he would move the Steelers 98 yards in a minute and a half for a 28-3 lead. On this drive, Swan was his main target. He would finish with 5 receptions for 129 yards in the first half alone. A repeat of the play reveals no technical gem, just another look at a splendid athlete performing at peak proficiency. The tools that have returned Swan to brilliance after an injury-hampered 1976 season are concentration and a great pair of hands. He looks like the all-pro he was 2 years ago as a third-year receiver. Again repeating the play, notice how Swan gets his arms under the ball and makes a legal reception on a pass that was not one of Bradshaw's best. Swan's receptions were good for 48 yards of the 98-yard drive. The last 16 coming on Franco Harris' run into the left corner of the end zone. Harris was shaken up on the play, but he would return in the second half, although it was questionable whether they would need him. For at halftime, Pittsburgh led Cleveland 28-3. The second half kicked off with the Steelers ahead by a mere 25 points. And from the way number 35, Brian Duncan, handled the kickoff, it appeared the Browns would do nothing to substantially reduce the margin in the second stanza. Instead, the complexion of this game changed drastically for both teams. Cleveland, who had scored but 3 points and gained only 154 yards to this point, would gain almost 300 while scoring 28 points in the second half. Not surprisingly, the man who started things off for the Browns was Greg Pruitt with an advance of 31 yards. On the very next play, Dr. Dave dropped behind the midfield stripe and threw over the middle to Reggie Rucker for a completion of 38 yards. And already it was apparent the Cleveland offense had undergone a metamorphosis since the first half. This was confirmed when Cleo Miller rammed over right guard for 5 yards, and the Browns' first touchdown of the day. The Browns' defense also underwent a second half change. But on 3rd and long, Bradshaw again converted when he hit John Stallworth at the left sideline for a first down. The Steelers' forward wall had been 100% successful in protecting Bradshaw and his fractured left wrist so far today. But now Terry avoided a Joe Jones rush only to be brought down by Mac Mitchell. While number 64 Jones' dislike of quarterbacks and officials is well known, Mac Mitchell has barely been heard from ever since the Browns made him their #1 pick 3 seasons ago. But this year, the towering 6-foot 6-inch defensive end has been a big surprise and has recorded 6 sacks, even though Mitchell has been playing behind young Mike St. Clair, who was out with an injury today. Big Mac's sack forced Pittsburgh to give up the ball. But Cleveland likewise had to punt on their offensive series, and rookie punter Greg Coleman could only get 30 yards out of his leg. The Browns' special teams made up for it with excellent coverage of Jim Smith. Still, due to the poor punt, Pittsburgh was inside Cleveland territory. But to further illustrate this is quite a different half, Franco Harris coughed up the ball, only the Steelers' second turnover of the day. appeared the Browns, with Quicksilver Greg Pruitt carrying the load, would get something done on this series as they moved to the Steeler 30. But on 3rd and long, the rusty steel curtain reasserted itself. Number 64, Steve Furness, now in his 6th season and an established starter, forced Cleveland to punt the ball. And this set the stage for the Steelers to move the ball steadily for the first time since the first half. Five plays into the 4th quarter, Bradshaw whipped a pass to Stallworth, who eluded Tom Darden and scored his 2nd touchdown of the day. The Steelers' lead moved to a more comfortable 25 points, 35-10. But if Pittsburgh thought Cleveland would curl up and die, they were mistaken. Behind by 25 again, Dave Mays came up firing. After a pass to Warfield went for 19, Dr. Dave drilled a bomb that Reggie Rucker took over his shoulder for 36 yards. Several plays later, the good doctor faked to Cleo Miller, then passed to Larry Poole in the end zone, and the Browns had their 2nd touchdown. On the next series occurred a play that had reams of significance for both teams. Attempting to pass, Bradshaw saw a blitzing Gerald Irons too late and took a solid hit and lost the ball. Cleveland had not only recovered deep in Pittsburgh territory, they succeeded in knocking Bradshaw out of the ballgame, something that occurs only 6 or 7 times a season. There was some irony that both starting quarterbacks, Bradshaw and Sipe, were on the bench. For last year, the same thing happened. Bradshaw going out as a result of Joe Jones' infamous corkscrew tackle. In that game, Dave Mays, then a raw rookie, led the Browns to a 9-7 pressure-packed victory. So thanks to number 86, linebacker Gerald Irons, the Browns had a big break. The football on the Pittsburgh 34. And the quarterback, whose red-hot first-half passing had put them 25 points down, was now on the bench for the rest of the day. Mays was quick to capitalize twice, going to Larry Poole, now playing in place of Pruitt at halfback. The big halfback from Kent State went left, then took a pass on the right, 13 yards into the end zone, and suddenly this started to look more like a ball game. The Steelers' lead, once 25, was now only 11. What's more, the man who replaced Bradshaw didn't exactly strike fear in the hearts of his opponent's defense with his mere presence, although having Franco Harris in the backfield with you surely helps. But now, with time running down, the Browns' defense rose up and stopped Pittsburgh's backfield tandem of Franco Harris and Rocky Bleier on successive plays. Both times it was number 52, middle linebacker Dick Ambrose, who made the play. Ambrose is having a sterling season, leading the team with 117 tackles this year. The Browns took over the ball, and with just over a minute remaining and the snow swirling around him, Dr. Dave Mays coolly and calmly threw his 3rd touchdown pass of the day to Larry Poole. Suddenly, this was a game that was up for grabs. With 59 seconds left, as Terry Bradshaw watched on the sidelines, huddling with pain, or was it cold, everyone knew an onside kick was the Browns' only hope. But Jack Ham covered the kick, and Pittsburgh had possession and was able to run off 4 plays that left Cleveland with only 1 second and 1 play left to pull off a miracle. It was not to be, of course, and the Steelers had the win they needed so badly. It was a bit ragged, perhaps, but it pulled them even with the Browns atop the AFC's very tough, very tight Central Division. Both teams are tied with records of 5-4, followed by Houston and Cincinnati with 4-5. The road ahead may be a bit more difficult for the Steelers than the Browns. However, with Sipe injured, it appears Cleveland will have to depend on a dentist named Mays to pull them through. Off his performance today, he just may do it.